How can I feel safe when I feel dizzy 24/7? This is probably the most common question I get asked by people on Instagram, YouTube, my clients, so I'm going to answer it for you today. Now, first of all, I really want to make it clear why safety is so essential when recovering from chronic dizziness and any other medically unexplained chronic symptom. Now, typically, someone who develops medically unexplained symptoms like dizziness, pain, fatigue, haven't had the easiest childhood. They might not have felt safe in their body. They might never have been shown how to regulate their emotions or how to safely move through emotions and express them without it being a problem. For example, their father was very volatile and they had to walk on eggshells around him, which gave them the belief that they are to blame when someone else is angry. And that belief is likely still there to this day. So while it's not that your childhood caused you to be dizzy directly, your childhood definitely gave you some maybe unhelpful belief systems that created the environment for dizziness to thrive in. Because the body will always let you know when something is not quite right, whether you will get a headache or an infection or you might get sick more often, whatever it is, your body will let you know. And typically, we don't tend to give those things much attention. We tend to actually ignore them because maybe they're too subtle of a sign. They're not loud enough for us to really pay attention to. Because maybe we have a job to go to, we have a life, we have responsibilities, maybe you have children that need you. So for many different reasons, this part of us can kind of get ignored and maybe even neglected. And each time we do ignore this part of us, that doesn't go anywhere. It builds up and it creates this tension and resistance within the physical body. And then whatever happened to trigger your dizziness, whether it was PPPD, an ear infection, head trauma, birth, surgery, whatever physical thing happened, that was actually the catalyst for all of this emotional pain to come to the surface and have an outlet. And I know that the physical symptoms themselves are likely causing you a lot of pain and a lot of emotional distress. I know that it's hard to feel safe whilst you have these symptoms, but I'm going to be showing you a few ways in which you can do this. First of all, knowing why the symptoms were created in the first place is really essential. And I've kind of covered that already, but just to dig in a little bit further, the symptoms have actually been created in the body to keep you safe. Dizziness is a danger signal in the brain and it's a sign to stop whatever you were just doing. But then of course, as the symptoms become chronic, the symptoms become our main focus because it feels like that's all we can think about. And then we might go on this wild goose chase for doctors to give us answers and medical tests, and typically those tests come back normal. So now we really don't feel safe. But I want you to imagine for a second that you have different parts of you. So the symptoms are a part of you, and they are a part that's trying to keep you safe. And likely this part of you has actually been there for longer than the symptoms have been there. It's the same part that walked on eggshells around your father. It's the same part that walks on eggshells around other people when they're angry because you think that it's your fault. That's just an example. But this is how our belief systems can shape our reality now. Even beliefs that were formed when we were 7 years old. And so if you can remember that this part of you is trying to keep you safe, can you send it some love for that? Can you thank it for that? Can you send it some appreciation and compassion? This is a very key perspective shift, because once we realize that the symptoms are actually not trying to ruin our lives, they're not out to get us, they're actually on our side and they're working with us to try and keep us safe. So maybe next time the symptoms come up, you can visualize them in a different way. Maybe you can even see them as your child self. And this part actually needs love and compassion from you. Because what ends up happening when we feel dizzy and we feel anxious is we tend to look outside of us for reassurance. But actually, this part is the one that needs reassurance, not you. Does that make sense? And if you're having trouble with this, I want you to visualize this. If you had a child and they would come up to you screaming and crying that they are terrified of something, you wouldn't get angry at them for that. You wouldn't tell them to shut up or go away or get over it or you're safe. You would spend time with them. You would cuddle them. You would embrace them and you would send them love and compassion. And you might even prove to them that their fear is not real. This is exactly what I want you to start doing with the physical symptoms. So next time they come up, here's what you're going to do. The first step is very essential, is to breathe. I know it sounds too simple to be true, but when we take conscious control of our breath, we are sending a direct signal to the brain that we are totally safe. Because if we were running from a predator, we wouldn't be deep breathing. We would be hyperventilating. Step 2 is to do exactly what I just told you. Visualize this part as a child. And it helps if it's the younger version of you. And just close your eyes for a second Breathe, imagine this child self, and send them some love. Even if you feel anxiety coursing through your body, even if you feel dizzy, I want you to take time to sit with this part of you and allow it to feel heard. You can even say out loud, I hear you. I'm listening to you now. I'm now aware that you are not trying to ruin my day. I really appreciate you for trying to keep me safe. But maybe we can work together now. And even setting that intention is beautiful, and it will set such positive things in motion. And step 3 is actually to integrate all the parts of you. So let's just start with the child self and the adult self. The child self is likely still quite afraid to do the things that the adult self wants to do. Maybe like going out for dinner, going to the grocery store, going on holiday. Perhaps this protective part is not quite ready for that, and that's okay. But instead of getting angry at this part for holding you back, you can actually thank this part, send it some love, and get them to work together in a more harmonious and supportive way. And some extra ways to feel safe throughout your day is visualization. If you have time, I would highly suggest that you try this, even for a few minutes. I used to visualize myself completely recovered, surrounded by my friends and family, celebrating in a party that I was recovered. And that would make me feel so hopeful and so motivated and happy. And yes, I still had symptoms while I did that. But the difference was that I was not letting the symptoms allow me to spiral into depression or into fear and predicting the future in a negative way. Instead, I was allowing myself the time and the freedom to actually visualize the future that I wanted. And no, visualization is not going to be the universe granting you wishes or your body just immediately doing whatever you want. The point of visualization is not to actually get that thing to happen exactly as you pictured it, but instead it's a moment in time where you just release the resistance. You stop talking negatively about your situation. You allow your brain time to actually think about what it would feel like to be recovered. Just do it because it feels good, not to force any particular outcome. And I would also suggest that you write down a list of symptom soothers. That's what I like to call them. For example, mine were taking a bath, going for a drive with my mum, laying down and watching a movie. And to be honest, for the first few years of my recovery journey, that was pretty much all that made me feel more safe. But as I kept on recovering, that list grew bigger. So take a moment to actually write down a few things that you've done in the past that have helped take the edge off the anxiety or even the edge off the symptoms, and engage in those practices often. But really the main premise of this video is to remind you that the part of your brain that is creating the sensations is not your enemy, and to really appreciate the part of you that is trying to keep you safe, even when symptoms are triggered. And I promise you, the more you do this, the easier it will get. Right now, it might be so difficult to believe that the symptoms have a positive intention for you, because it's likely that you hate them, right? They're making you very uncomfortable. It's valid to hate them, but we really need to start to soften that. And maybe you can't reach love right now, but you can at least turn down the hatred a little bit each day. And then if the symptoms are triggered in the moment, breath work will typically be enough, because you already understand that this part of you is not trying to kill you, it's not trying to hurt you, and it's not trying to ruin your life. All it needs from you at that point onwards is safety. Think about someone that makes you feel safe. Call that person. Think about something that makes you feel good. Breathe deeply into your belly. Stop what you're doing for a second and just relax in the moment. Maybe you can even do a meditation session or a journaling session. Get in the bath, call a friend, do whatever you need to do to help your brain feel safe. But honestly, this is the biggest piece of the puzzle that a lot of people are missing. They are still treating the symptoms like the enemy, when actually they are on your side. I really hope this video has given you a fresh perspective and will hopefully allow you to integrate some safety practices into your day. And if you would like more information on the first essential steps to recovery, I have also linked a really low-cost mini course that covers all the essentials and all the basics for you. As always, if you have any questions, just comment below, and I will see you in the next video.